The red sun was rising over Olympus City when Governor made the decision that would shake the entire galaxy. She stood alone in her office, looking out at the Martian landscape. The rust-colored mountains stretched far into the distance. Dust storms moved slowly across the horizon like angry ghosts. This was her home. This was the home of 30 million humans who had built something beautiful on a dead world. For 300 years, humans had been part of the Galactic Alliance. They had joined as newcomers, grateful for a seat at the table with species that had traveled the stars for thousands of years, though with their silver skin and ancient wisdom, though with their massive trading ships and hunger for profit, though with their warrior traditions and strict codes of honor. Dozens of other species, all united under one banner. And humans had become the workers, the builders, the problem solvers. When they needed better engines for their ships, they asked human engineers. When they wanted stronger weapons to protect their cargo, they came to Martian factories. When anyone in the Alliance faced a problem they could not solve, they turned to humanity. And humanity always delivered. Always. Picked up a small data chip from her desk. On it was a recording of the Alliance Council meeting from 3 days ago. She had watched it 17 times. Each time, her anger grew hotter. The Council had voted to give away 5 human colony worlds to the Dominion. The Dominion was an enemy empire that had been pushing against Alliance borders for decades. They wanted more territory, more resources, more power. The Alliance was tired of fighting, so they decided to buy peace with human lives. Nobody had asked the humans. Nobody had even told them until the decision was already made. Pressed a button on her desk. A holographic screen appeared in front of her. On it was the face of Admiral, commander of the Martian Defense Fleet. He was a tall man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. "It is time," said simply. Nodded. "The fleet is ready. All Martian citizens on Alliance stations have been recalled. Our engineers are prepared to leave their posts across the galaxy." "And Earth?" "President has confirmed Earth support. The other colonies are with us too. Humanity stands together." Took a deep breath, then send the message. At exactly 600 Martian Standard Time, every communication system in the galaxy received the same transmission. It played on screens in the Alliance Council chamber. It echoed through trading halls. It interrupted meditation ceremonies. It reached every corner of known space. Governor's face appeared, calm and determined. "To all members of the Galactic Alliance," she began. "For 3 centuries, humanity has served this union with loyalty and dedication. We have built your ships. We have powered your worlds. We have fought your wars and bled for your causes. We asked for nothing but respect and fair treatment." She paused, letting her words sink in. 3 days ago, the Alliance Council voted to surrender 5 human colony worlds to the Dominion. 12 million of our people were traded away like cargo. We were not consulted. We were not warned. We were not considered worthy of even basic communication. On Station Prime, the Alliance's central hub, Ambassador watched the broadcast from his office. His aide, a young woman named, stood beside him. Through the window, they could see alien diplomats running through the corridors, their faces twisted with confusion and fear. "This is it," whispered. Said nothing. He had warned the Council this would happen. They had not listened. On the screen continued. Effective immediately, the Martian Confederation withdraws from the Galactic Alliance. All treaties between our peoples are void. All obligations are dissolved. All Martian technology, engineering support, and military cooperation will cease. In the council chamber, High Elder rose from his seat. His silver face had turned pale gray. "She cannot do this," he said. "They cannot simply leave." But they could, and they were. "We do not make this decision with hatred," said. "We make it with sorrow. We wanted to be your partners. You chose to treat us as servants. Now you will learn what it means to lose us." The transmission ended. For a long moment the galaxy was silent. Then the chaos began. Merchants discovered that their ships' navigation systems were locking them out. The systems were Martian-made, and the access codes had been changed. Defense platforms around there went dark. Their power cores needed Martian maintenance codes that no longer worked. Medical stations across a dozen worlds found their life support systems displaying error messages in human languages. In 1 hour, the Alliance learned a terrible truth. They had become completely dependent on human technology, and they had never even noticed. On Mars, watched the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Beside her stood Doctor, her chief advisor, was a small woman with sharp eyes and a sharper mind. "They are requesting emergency communications," reported. "So are and 15 other species. The Alliance Council is calling for an immediate summit." "Ignore them all," said. "They will send ships. Let them try. Admiral has the fleet positioned at every jump point into our space. Nothing gets through without our permission." Looked at her old friend with concern. "Are we ready for what comes next, if this turns into a war?" Turned to face her. "It will not be a war. They cannot fight a war without us. Their weapons are built in our factories. Their ships run on our engines. Their armies are equipped with our technology." She smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "They wanted to give away our worlds to buy peace. Now they will have to buy peace from us." Across the galaxy, the panic was spreading. Species that had ignored humanity for centuries were suddenly desperate to talk. Leaders who had voted to sacrifice human colonies were now begging for meetings. The comfortable order of the Alliance was crumbling, and everyone could see it. On Station Prime, Ambassador finally spoke. "They are terrified," he told. "Should we feel sorry for them?" she asked. Thought about the 12 million humans on those colony worlds. Men, women, and children who had been traded away like broken machinery. Families who would have been forced to live under Dominion rule, their freedoms stripped away, their futures destroyed. "No," he said quietly. "They did this to themselves. Now they will face the consequences." The breaking had begun, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. 7 days had passed since Mars broke away from the Alliance. 7 days of chaos, confusion, and growing fear. Across the galaxy, the true cost of losing humanity was becoming painfully clear. On the great cities were going dark. Their famous crystal towers, which had glowed with soft light for 10,000 years, now stood cold and silent. The power systems that fed them were failing. Engineers worked desperately to fix the problems, but they could not. The technology was human-made. The repair codes were human-controlled, and the humans were gone. High Elder stood on his balcony, watching his beautiful city fade into darkness. Below him, millions walked through streets lit only by chemical torches. They looked like ghosts moving through a dying world. "How long can we survive like this?" he asked his advisor. "Weeks, perhaps," the advisor replied. "Our food production systems are failing too. The water purification plants are running at half capacity, without Martian engineers to maintain them." "Enough," raised his hand. "Contact Mars again, offer them whatever they want." "We have tried, High Elder, 17 times, they do not respond." In the cold void of space, the Martian defense fleet held its position. Admiral commanded from the bridge of the Crimson Dawn, the most powerful warship ever built. It was a massive vessel, painted red like the Martian soil, armed with weapons that could crack a planet. Lieutenant approached him with a report. "Sir, we have detected another Alliance convoy trying to reach our space. 20 ships, mostly traders." "Send them the standard warning," said. "One chance to turn back. If they continue, destroy them." "Yes, Admiral," hesitated. "Sir, some of my crew are asking questions. They feel uncomfortable threatening the people we used to protect." Turned to look at her. His face was hard as stone. "We protected them for 300 years. We built their civilization with our hands and our minds. And how did they repay us? By selling our families to the enemy." He shook his head. The time for protection is over. Now we protect only ourselves. The convoy turned back. On Station Prime, the Alliance Council met in emergency session. The great chamber, which had once echoed with confident voices and grand speeches, was now filled with frightened whispers. Representatives from dozens of species sat in their assigned seats, but nobody seemed to know what to say. Representative stood alone at the human delegation's platform. She was the only human who had not left the station. She had chosen to stay, to watch the Alliance face the consequences of its actions. The human representative will speak, the council speaker announced. Walked slowly to the center of the chamber. Every eye watched her. Every translator device worked to carry her words to every species. You are wondering why this happened, she began. You are confused. You are scared. You thought humanity would always be there to serve you, to solve your problems, to fix your mistakes. She paused, looking around at the alien faces. Let me tell you a story. When humans first joined the Alliance, we were grateful. We were young in space travel. We knew so little about the galaxy. You welcomed us, and we thought you were our friends. Her voice grew harder. But we were never your friends. We were your tools. When your ships needed better engines, you came to our engineers. When your weapons were too weak, you came to our factories. When your scientists could not solve a problem, you came to our laboratories. And we helped you. Every single time we helped you. A representative tried to interrupt. We paid you fairly for your services. You paid us in credits, replied. But you never paid us in respect. You never treated us as equals. When your council made decisions, human voices were ignored. When resources were divided, humans received the smallest share. When dangerous missions needed volunteers, you sent human soldiers. She walked closer to the representative. And when you needed to sacrifice someone to buy peace with the Dominion, you chose human worlds. Without asking, without warning, without caring. The chamber was silent. You built your empire on human work, continued. You forgot that we could take it away. Now you are learning the truth. Without us, your ships cannot fly. Your weapons cannot fire. Your cities cannot function. You need us. You have always needed us, but you never bothered to notice. Although the great trading houses were in panic, 60% of their merchant fleet was stranded. The ships had Martian fusion drives, and without spare parts, they could not operate. The economy, built on trade across 1,000 worlds, was collapsing. Trade Master called an emergency meeting of all major house leaders. They gathered in his golden hall, surrounded by treasures collected from across the galaxy, but their faces showed no pride now, only fear. Our losses are mounting by the hour, one leader reported. Contracts are being broken. Partners are refusing payment. Other species see our weakness and are demanding new terms. Then we must make peace with the humans, another said. Pay whatever price they ask. They will not talk to us, slammed his fist on the table. We have sent gifts, promises, threats. Nothing works. They simply ignore us. A young advisor raised her hand. Perhaps that is the lesson, Trade Master. For the first time in our history, someone does not need what we offer. The humans have everything they need. They do not need our money. They do not need our ships. They do not need our friendship. Stared at her, then what do they want? I think, the advisor said slowly, they want us to suffer. They want us to understand how it feels to be powerless, to be ignored, to be treated as if we do not matter. Back on Mars, Governor received daily reports on the Alliance's deteriorating condition, medical systems failing, food shortages beginning, transportation networks breaking down. The great galactic civilization was stumbling, and it could not find its footing. Doctor entered her office with a tablet. The latest numbers, Governor. 17 Alliance worlds have requested emergency aid. They will face critical food shortages within a month. 3 trading stations have been abandoned. Studied the data, any military movement. They are gathering their war fleet. But their weapons systems are also Martian-made. They can fight, but not for long. They will not attack, said confidently. They know what would happen. And what about the Dominion? Looked up, what about them? They are watching all of this. A weakened alliance, human space closed off, chaos everywhere. His voice was worried. They might see an opportunity. For a moment said nothing, then she smiled. Good, she said. Let them come. Let them see what happens when they threaten humanity. Outside her window, Martian factories continued their work. Day and night they produced ships, weapons, and technology. But these were not for the Alliance. Not anymore. These were for Mars, for Earth, for every human world that had been betrayed. The silence from Mars continued, and with each passing day the galaxy grew more afraid. The Dominion had been waiting for this moment for 50 years. Their empire stretched across 300 worlds, filled with species they had conquered and enslaved. For decades, they had pushed against Alliance borders, testing, probing, searching for weakness. Now they had found it. Supreme Commander stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Crushing Tide. It was a massive warship, black as the void between stars, armed with enough firepower to destroy a planet. Around it gathered 200 more ships, the largest Dominion fleet ever assembled. The Alliance is broken, said to his officers. Their human servants have abandoned them. Their weapons fail. Their defenses crumble. Now we take what we have always wanted. The fleet moved forward. On Station Prime, alarms began to sound. Alliance military commanders watched their screens with growing horror as Dominion ships crossed the border. The enemy was not sneaking in with small raiding parties. They were coming with everything they had. We must respond, a general shouted. Send our fleets to intercept. With what weapons? An admiral replied bitterly. Half our ships cannot fire their main guns. The targeting systems need Martian codes we no longer have. Then we fight with what we can. But everyone knew the truth. Without human technology, the Alliance military was crippled. They could delay the Dominion, perhaps, stop them. Never. The Dominion fleet moved through Alliance space like fire through dry grass. They did not stop to negotiate. They did not accept surrenders. World after world fell before them. Species that had considered themselves safe behind Alliance protection watched helplessly as their cities burned. On Mars, Governor received the reports with a calm expression. The Dominion is advancing faster than expected, Doctor said. They have already taken 12 Alliance worlds. Millions are dead or enslaved. I know, replied. People are saying we should do something, that we cannot simply watch the galaxy burn. Turned to face her advisor. Should we? The Alliance sold our people to the Dominion. Now the Dominion is taking more people. Why should we care? Was silent for a moment. Because we are human, she finally said. Because watching innocent people suffer is not who we are. Even if the Alliance betrayed us, the ordinary citizens on those worlds did nothing wrong. Stared out her window. The Martian sky was turning orange as the sun set. Somewhere out there, worlds were dying. Children were crying for parents who would never return. Families were being torn apart. She thought about her own daughter, safe in Olympus City. She thought about what it would feel like to watch her home burn while no one came to help. Call Admiral, she said quietly. The Crimson Dawn was waiting. Admiral had been watching the Dominion advance with growing anger. His crew, hardened veterans who had fought in a dozen campaigns, were restless. They had spent their careers protecting the Alliance. Now they were standing by while the enemy destroyed everything. When Governor's face appeared on his screen, he knew what was coming. Admiral, she said, the Dominion fleet is moving toward New. 12 million humans live there. I know. New was one of the worlds the Alliance planned to surrender. Our people there were already marked for sacrifice. His jaw tightened. Orders, Governor. His eyes were hard as diamond. Protect our people, Admiral, by any means necessary. The Martian fleet moved like lightning. 48 warships, the finest ever built, jumped through space toward Nu. They arrived just as the Dominion Vanguard entered the system. Commander led the assault squadron from his ship, the Red Storm. He was young for a commander, only 35, but he had proven himself in battle many times. His crew trusted him completely. Enemy fleet detected, his sensor officer reported. 115 Dominion warships. They outnumber us more than 2 to 1. Smiled. Good, that makes it fair. On the Dominion flagship, Supreme Commander received the report of Martian ships with surprise. He had expected the humans to hide behind their borders, too weak to face him directly. Only 48 ships, he laughed. The humans must be desperate, destroy them. The Dominion fleet advanced confidently. Their weapons had crushed every enemy they had faced. Their shields had turned aside every attack. They were invincible. Then the Martian ships opened fire. Commander watched as his weapons tore through Dominion shields like paper. The technology was nothing like what Mars had provided to the Alliance. These were real weapons, designed for humans to use, holding nothing back. Target their command ships first, he ordered. Then their engines. I want them helpless. The battle was not a fight, it was an execution. Dominion ships exploded in brilliant flashes of light. Their weapons, which could crack Alliance cruisers in seconds, barely scratched Martian shields. Their proud fleet, 200 ships strong, was being torn apart by less than 50 human vessels. Supreme Commander watched in disbelief as his flagship shook under Martian fire. Alarms screamed. Officers shouted damage reports. Through his window, he could see his fleet dying. Retreat, he finally screamed. All ships retreat. But retreat was impossible. The Martian fleet was everywhere, cutting off escape routes, destroying engines, trapping the Dominion ships like fish in a net. In 11 minutes, it was over. Admiral looked at the battlefield with satisfaction. 97 Dominion ships destroyed, the rest crippled or captured. Martian losses, 0. He opened a channel to the surviving Dominion vessels. This is Admiral of the Martian Defense Fleet. You came here to enslave human people. That was a mistake you will never repeat. He paused. Your Supreme Commander is dead. Your fleet is destroyed. You will return to your empire and deliver a message. If any Dominion ship ever threatens a human world again, we will not stop at defeating your fleet. We will come to we will reduce it to ash. We will make your species a memory. He cut the channel. On Nu, 12 million humans watched the Dominion survivors limp away. They had been hours from invasion, from slavery, from death. Now they were safe. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread like wildfire. The Dominion fleet, which had been unstoppable, had been erased in minutes. The humans, who everyone thought were servants and workers, had revealed themselves as warriors beyond imagination. On Station Prime, Representative watched the footage with tears in her eyes. She had always known humans were stronger than the Alliance realized, but even she had not understood how much Mars had been holding back. Governor received reports from across the galaxy. Species that had ignored her messages were now begging for audiences. The Alliance Council was demanding an emergency summit. The Dominion had pulled every ship back to their borders. What do we do now? Doctor asked. Looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, millions of humans on Nu were celebrating their survival. Somewhere out there, the enemies of humanity were learning fear. Now, she said, they will listen. Alliance Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every species packed the great hall, filling seats that had been empty for years. Translators worked overtime to convert hundreds of languages into something everyone could understand. The air was thick with tension and fear. High Arbiter of the stood at the central podium. He was the most respected negotiator in the galaxy, a being who had ended wars between ancient enemies. His silver skin seemed to glow under the chamber lights. His voice, when he spoke, carried the weight of 10,000 years of wisdom. "This council has made a terrible mistake," he began. "We took humanity for granted. We used their gifts while ignoring their dignity. Now we face the consequences of our arrogance." The chamber was silent. "I have been chosen to travel to Mars and negotiate on behalf of the Alliance. I will offer whatever terms are necessary to restore our relationship with humanity. Our survival depends on it." A representative stood. "What if they refuse to negotiate? They have ignored every attempt at communication." "They will not ignore me," said with confidence. "I have successfully negotiated with empires far more hostile than the humans. I will find common ground." He was wrong. Arrived on Mars 3 days later, traveling alone as a sign of trust, Governor received him in a simple conference room in the government building. There were no decorations, no symbols of power, just a plain table and 2 chairs. Sat on one side, sat on the other. "Governor," began smoothly, "I come to you with deep respect and sincere apologies. The Alliance has wronged humanity. We understand this now. We are prepared to make significant changes to address your concerns." Said nothing. Continued. "The decision regarding your colony worlds was a terrible error. We are willing to reverse it completely. The 5 worlds will remain under human control. The Dominion Agreement will be cancelled." Still was silent. Felt something he rarely felt: nervousness. He was used to opponents who shouted, who threatened, who demanded. This quiet human woman was different. She simply watched him with dark eyes that revealed nothing. "Furthermore," he pressed on, "the Alliance is prepared to increase human representation in the Council. You will have more votes, more influence, more power. Your voice will matter." Finally spoke. "Our voice always mattered, Arbiter. You simply chose not to hear it. A failure we deeply regret." "Do you?" Leaned forward slightly. "Do you truly regret what happened, or do you regret only the consequences?" Hesitated. He was not used to such direct questions. We. "Let me tell you what I think," said. "I think you are here because your civilization is falling apart. Your ships cannot fly. Your weapons cannot fire. Your cities are going dark. I think you are afraid, and your fear has brought you to my door." "That is not entirely inaccurate," admitted. "And I think," continued, "that if we restore your technology, if we fix your problems, you will go back to treating us exactly as you did before. You will smile and thank us and promise equality. And then, slowly, you will forget. You will take us for granted again. You will use us until you need to sacrifice us, and then you will sacrifice us." "No, the Alliance has learned." "The Alliance has learned nothing." His voice was cold. "You have learned that humans are dangerous when angry. That is not the same as learning to respect us." She slid a document across the table. "These are our terms. They are not negotiable." Read the document with growing shock. Full recognition of the Human Confederation as an independent power. Return of all colony worlds with Alliance guarantee of protection. A public broadcast to every inhabited world, apologizing for the attempted betrayal and acknowledging human equality. Complete access to Alliance scientific archives that had been restricted from humans, and more. These terms struggled to find words. Some of these demands would fundamentally change the structure of the Alliance itself. "Yes. The Council will never accept this. It undermines their authority completely." Stood and walked to the window. Outside, Olympus City spread across the Martian landscape. Factories hummed. Ships rose and fell from landing pads. Life continued. "Do you know what that is?" she asked, pointing to a massive structure in the distance. Looked. "A shipyard. That shipyard produces 1 warship every week. Ships like the ones that destroyed the Dominion fleet in 11 minutes. Ships that make your greatest weapons look like children's toys." She turned back to face him. "The Alliance has no leverage here, Arbiter. You cannot threaten us. You cannot pressure us. You cannot even survive without us. Then why negotiate at all? Why not simply let the alliance collapse? Was quiet for a moment. Because we are not monsters. Because innocent people on alliance worlds will suffer if their governments fail. Because somewhere in the galaxy, there might still be a chance for genuine partnership. She returned to her seat. Take our terms back to your council. They have 1 week to accept them. If they refuse, we will wish them well and close our borders forever. The alliance will fall. The Dominion will rise. And humanity will watch from safety while the galaxy burns. Returned to Station Prime a broken being. He had entered negotiations expecting to use his famous skills to find compromise. He had discovered that there was no compromise to be found. The humans held all the power, and they knew it. The council met in emergency session, presented the terms. For hours, representatives argued, shouted, and protested. Some called for war against humanity. Others begged for more time to negotiate. A few suggested abandoning the alliance entirely and seeking individual deals with Mars. In the end, they had no choice. Representative watched as the council voted to accept every single human demand. The voted yes with shame on their silver faces. The voted yes while calculating how to profit from the new arrangement. The voted yes with respect for an enemy who had proven stronger. The motion passes, the council speaker announced. The alliance accepts the terms of the Human Confederation. On Mars, Governor received the news with a simple nod. Doctor stood beside her, reading the details of the agreement. They accepted everything, said with wonder, every single term. Of course they did. What happens now? Looked at her old friend. For the first time in weeks there was warmth in her eyes. Now we begin the real work, building a new relationship, creating something better than what came before. Do you think it is possible? True partnership with species that betrayed us? Considered the question carefully. Perhaps not with them, perhaps not in my lifetime, but perhaps with their children, perhaps with generations who will grow up knowing humans as equals, not servants. She smiled slightly. We have taken the first step. The journey will be long. On Station Prime, the council chamber emptied slowly. Representatives returned to their ships, their worlds, their uncertain futures. Everything they had known about power in the galaxy had changed. Humanity was no longer a servant species. Humanity was a power to be respected, feared, and carefully treated. The era of taking humans for granted was over. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, the Dominion watched and waited, planning their next move with newfound caution. The ceremony took place on Earth, in the rebuilt city of Sol. It was a beautiful spring morning. Cherry blossoms drifted through the air like pink snow. Millions of humans lined the streets, watching history unfold before their eyes. Representatives from every alliance species had gathered in the Grand Unity Hall. They sat in curved rows facing a raised platform where the new compact would be signed. Many of them had never visited Earth before. They looked around with curious eyes at this small blue world that had produced such remarkable people. Governor stood at the center of the platform. She wore a simple red dress, the color of Mars. Beside her stood President of Earth, Admiral, and dozens of other human leaders. Together, they represented 30 billion humans spread across dozens of worlds. High Arbiter approached the platform with the official Alliance delegation. His silver skin looked pale under Earth's yellow sun. He moved slowly, like a being carrying a great weight. "We are gathered here today," announced, his voice carrying through speakers to every corner of the hall, "to sign the new compact. This document will establish a new relationship between humanity and the Galactic Alliance. It acknowledges past wrongs and creates a framework for future cooperation based on equality and mutual respect." In the audience, Doctor watched with tears in her eyes. She was one of Mars's greatest scientists, a woman who had spent her career building technology for species that barely acknowledged her existence. Beside her sat her daughter, a young woman of 20 who had just begun her training as a starship officer. "Are you crying, Mother?" asked quietly. "Happy tears," replied. "I never thought I would live to see this day." On the platform, the signing began. Pressed his silver hand against the document, leaving a glowing imprint that served as his species' signature. One by one, representatives from other Alliance species did the same, and dozens more added their marks to the historic agreement. Finally, it was humanity's turn. Governor stepped forward. She looked out at the assembly, at aliens who had once ignored her species, at humans who had waited centuries for this moment. When she spoke, her voice was steady and strong. "For 300 years, humanity walked among the stars as servants. We built your ships. We powered your worlds. We fought your battles. We asked for nothing but respect, and we received nothing but neglect." The alien delegates shifted uncomfortably. "When we were betrayed, we could have responded with hatred. We could have watched your civilizations fall and celebrated our revenge. Instead, we chose a different path. We chose to build something new, something better." She picked up a writing instrument, an old-fashioned pen made of Martian iron. "This compact is not just a treaty. It is a promise that humanity will stand beside the Alliance as equal partners, a promise that we will defend our friends and protect the innocent, a promise that we will never forget what we are capable of, both the building and the destroying." She signed the document with a human signature, the way her ancestors had signed important papers for thousands of years. The hall erupted in applause. Outside, the crowds cheered. Ships flew overhead, streaming banners in colors representing every human world. Musicians played. Dancers performed. The celebration spread across continents, across space, to every human settlement in the galaxy. Marshall, commander of Earth's planetary defense forces, stood at attention as a new flag rose above the assembly. It showed the red disk of Mars beside Earth's blue sphere, surrounded by stars representing every human colony. The flag of the Human Confederation, flying free for the first time in history. That evening, a grand reception was held in the gardens surrounding the Unity Hall. Human and alien mingled under paper lanterns that glowed softly in the darkening sky. Food from 100 worlds was served. Wine from Earth, spirits from Mars, drinks from distant stars. Doctor found herself standing beside High Arbiter. The old looked tired but somehow lighter than before. "Your species is remarkable," said quietly. "In all my years of negotiating, I have never encountered beings like you." "We are nothing special," replied. "We are simply stubborn. We refuse to accept that our place in the universe is at the bottom." Made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Perhaps that is what makes you special. Every other species that joined the Alliance was grateful just to be included. You were the only ones who demanded more." Nearby, Young was talking with a cadet about the same age. They were comparing stories about their training, their dreams, their hopes for the future. The listened with genuine interest as described her ambition to command a starship one day. "I hope I can serve on a human vessel," the said. "I have heard your ships are the finest in the galaxy." Smiled, "Perhaps one day you will. The new compact allows for exchange programs. Maybe we can learn from each other." It was a small moment, easily overlooked, but it was exactly the kind of moment that Governor had hoped for. Not a galaxy united by force, but connections built one conversation at a time. As the night grew later, walked alone through the garden. The sounds of celebration followed her, but she sought a quiet place to think. She found a bench beneath an old tree and sat down. Admiral found her there an hour later. He sat beside her without speaking. They had known each other for 30 years, fought together, planned together, built a nation together. "How do you feel?" he finally asked. Considered the question, tired, proud, worried. "Worried," This is just the beginning, old friend. The Alliance has accepted our terms, but acceptance is not trust. Some of them will try to break the compact as soon as they think we are not watching. Some will resent us forever. And the Dominion is still out there, waiting for another chance. Nodded. Then we will remain vigilant. We will keep our ships ready and our factories running. We will never again be weak enough to be betrayed. No, agreed, we will not. She looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there, her people were celebrating on a dozen worlds. Children who would grow up free. Families who would never fear being traded away. A species finally standing tall among the stars. Do you think future generations will understand what we did? She asked. Will they appreciate the struggle? Smiled. They will not need to understand it. They will simply live it. They will be born into a galaxy where humans are equals, where our voices matter, where our lives have value. That is enough. The night wind carried the sound of music and laughter. Tomorrow, the work of building the future would begin. Treaties would need enforcement. Trust would need earning. Peace would need defending. But for tonight, humanity celebrated. They had stood up against the greatest powers in the galaxy and won. They had refused to accept their place as servants and forced the universe to recognize them as equals. Mars had severed its pact with the Alliance, and the universe had spiraled into panic. But from that chaos, something new had emerged. A human civilization united and unafraid. A galaxy forced to change its ways. A future where anything was possible. On Earth, on Mars, on every human world, the celebrations continued through the night. And in the morning, when the sun rose on a new day, humanity was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Together as equals, forever.